Chaos is everywhere, but steady leaders rise above it with clarity. I'm your host, Schuyler Williamson, and this is the Steady Leader Podcast. Whether you're leading a team, a company, your family, or just yourself, this show gives you the tools to stay calm, think clearly, and lead with confidence. Let's get steady. All right, welcome everybody to the Steady Leader Podcast. This is an extremely special podcast for me because I have Colonel Dale Kuehl, who was my commander when I was in Baghdad, Iraq, here with us today to talk about how he leads himself, his team, and now a business. And a second special part of this is I'm hosting this podcast from my ranch. So this is the first time for me, and if this goes well, then maybe I've got a good excuse to keep coming out here and doing this more often. So I'm excited. Sir, welcome to the podcast. We're excited to have you here, and thank you.
Well, Schuyler, thanks a lot for inviting me to participate in this. It's an honor to be a part of it, and it's really an honor that seeing what you've done and what you've accomplished. It's really humbling to see a junior leader from the time that we were in Baghdad continue to grow and develop as a leader. That's awesome.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, we like to start these podcasts off with a definition of leadership, just so we all have a frame of reference from where you speak from. So what is your definition of leadership?
Well, can we go back and introduce myself just a little bit?
Yeah, sir. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
more than just the commander, right?
So been married to Ellen. I think you remember her. We've been married for 37 years now. We're living in Huntsville, Alabama. Our daughter, Kayla, is out there in Texas near you. And along with our grandchildren, Maggie and Margot. They're 9 and Margot turns 8 this week. I started a second career in the financial industry where I help people reach their financial goals, which is very exciting. Of course, before that, I served 30 years in the Army. I did retire as a colonel. And during my Army career, I was fortunate to lead soldiers through various positions, various command positions, staff positions. I was a coach at the National Training Center where I got to mentor another senior leader and his formation. And I finished my service teaching leadership at the Air Force War College. Those experiences shaped how I lead today, both inside the firm and then also helps me with the nonprofits I work with and helping develop our team and in the community. And I serve on several nonprofit boards. So all that has helped me in what I do today. Also, we with a few other folks from 15 Cav, we've created a foundation focused on telling the story of our soldiers in Iraq. Leadership has been central to every chapter of my life.
Yeah. Well, and I can attest to that. And just for all leaders out there, when you're leading at all levels, it is important to lead yourself because people like me, we were always watching you. And even probably when you didn't know that we were watching because we weren't there physically with you, but when you would make decisions, I was always trying to put myself in your position and learn like what was, or just think through what was going through your head at that moment, and what outcome are you trying to get here, and then obviously I'm going to try to play my part. But the way that you were thinking really mattered to me, because if I could learn how to think, I knew that that then I could lead better. How do you lead yourself today? Certainly, how do you lead yourself through all that in the past, but how are you leading yourself today to make sure that you remain a steady leader?
Okay, I gotta try to circle back one more time. You asked for my definition of leadership, but we kind of skipped past that. So we can edit this if we need to. Can we go back? Well, let me go back to it because I think this is important, and that will lead to, because I like the way you set this up because it leads to everything else. So for much like many other people that you have talked to that you have had on the podcast, Leadership for me is it's the art of influencing others achieve a goal, objective, or vision. But at the heart of leadership is ethical leadership. So that's leading in a way that aligns with your values and produces a positive outcome. And for me, that starts with operating from a clear set of core values. Second is putting others before yourself. Next is taking responsibility for developing those future leaders. And then finally, having the flexibility to adjust your approach. Sometimes I need to be hands-on. Sometimes I need to give space based on what the situation demands. We saw that a lot in Iraq. Sometimes I had to be hands-on. Sometimes I had to give clear text instruction and guidance to ensure that we stayed in the direction that I wanted to go. But most of the time, I had to delegate. I had to trust the subordinates underneath me to achieve my vision because I couldn't be everywhere at once. Leadership isn't just about getting results. It's about how you get them and the impact you have on the leaders and the people you lead. Now, how do I take that into leading myself?
Yeah.
So first, it starts with the mindset. I'm not done yet. I'm not done developing as a leader. Every day is a chance to get a little bit better. And it starts every morning. I'm not the person who gets up in the morning and is raring to go, but I do know I need to get up in the morning. I try to get to the gym almost every day. I think that's important. I still get up early, just like we did in the Army. As I get older, I have to learn to listen to my body. I can't do the same things I could when I was 20 years old or 40 years old. It's less lifting and cardio and more stretching, but I still try to get all aspects in there. And that's been humbling. Continuous learning is also important, particularly with the career transition I had. I went into something completely different. So I had to gain new skills, new education, new certifications, and I still work on my education all the time right now. And my firm encourages that. They they ask us to create a self-development plan. And this year, my focus has been on leading through change. And the world is changing very fast. So that's something that I think is important. I'm also intentional, and Ellen might argue with me on this, but I'm intentional about protecting time for family. So I still work hard. I'll come home late, but one of the reasons I chose this career field was I wasn't going to have to travel for business on a routine basis. I'm able to come home every night. And with this flexibility, we've been able to travel together more than we ever have before. And also, this has allowed this current position I'm in has allowed me the flexibility to spend time with my dad, particularly over the last few years before he passed away this past June. And I'm extremely grateful for that.
Yeah.
And then going back to the foundation that we've stood up, we stood it up over this last year. I have the opportunity to reflect on my leadership during our deployment, probably more than I ever have since that time. Through our nonprofit, we've connected with 1-5 CAD veterans throughout the country, and I've had the opportunity to hear their stories, much like I heard your story when I read your book.
Yeah.
And hearing their stories, especially as we remember the 18 soldiers we lost in Iraq and the many more we've lost since, it's been emotional, but it also has helped me process those experiences and understand the impact on who I am today.
Yeah. Well, we just unpacked a lot there. Going back to the very start with your continuous improvement, what I heard is you're studying the environment that we're in, the moving environment that we're in, and trying to become better at what we're up against today. But how do you pick the content that you consume? Is it
Oh
are
gosh.
you like because I'm a guy that likes to read books. I've got people that work for me that love to listen, but I do have a way of how I pick the books that I read. I mean, I'd love to hear your method.
Probably not real disciplined. A lot of times now I mostly listen as opposed to reading. I listen while I'm in the gym or while I'm walking the dogs. It's surprising how much you can get done that way.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
at honestly, what I've gone back and looked. I taught at the Air War College. I taught leadership, and there was a lot of business books, believe it or not, that were tied into what we taught leadership. And so I've gone back and looked at some of those. Also, I just go on Amazon and I look for the content and of what I'm looking for. Like this year, it was on leading through change, and I looked at who's getting a good rating and what is the feedback that folks are getting, and I'll listen to one a book, and I'm like, not so much. Okay, I'd give it 1 star. It got 5, but generally they're pretty good, and most of them I can get something out of it, and really a lot of it's reinforcing things that I either experienced or I actually taught. So I taught a class. We had one class on leading through change while I was teaching at their war college. But see,
Oh,
hearing
yeah.
another perspective is always helpful. But that's how I come
Yeah.
up with my content.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not all that different. I've got a group of guys that we all read together, and I'll ask them, "Have you heard of anything that you think I should pick up and read in this genre?" And, more times than not, somebody's got a recommendation or they at least
Yep.
heard something. Yeah, you talked about, protecting your family time, and I think, just the way you said it, we probably experience the same push and pull there. From my own perspective, I am a hard worker. In some ways, I think it's a bit of my competitive edge against others, but I also time block my family time. Where there's rub for me is when I'm asked to change what I've planned. And I always say yes, but I have a hard time saying yes because it's coming off of my plan. But how do you so do you are you one that like schedules everything at the beginning of the year and sticks to it, or is it kind of a quarter by quarter basis? How do you keep yourself disciplined to making
Oh
sure you're
gosh. Yeah. Scheduling my schedule further than 3 weeks out is extremely difficult based on what I do. So I like to plan a there's different levels of planning. You kind of we'll get to that when we go to, the team and the business, but I have a general idea of what I want to do. And then there's the week to week stuff that has got to get in there. There's certain things that I got to do, but this will sound familiar to you. We have a battle rhythm. So within that battle rhythm, there's certain times I'm going to do certain meetings, meet with clients. There's certain times that we're going to have a meeting within our team. And there's certain times that are blocked off for me to do things I know I need to do. And sometimes I said, I'm getting behind. I need a day to block off to get the homework done. And that's important to stay grounded so that I don't get off track. But then there are audibles along the way. Things are going to happen. There might be an opportunity that comes up that I have to make a decision on. Do I commit to that because it's going to be good for us, or hey, I am tapped out. I don't have much energy left. And one of the big things I have had to learn to do is say no over the last
Yeah.
few years, because I can
Yeah.
overschedule myself and I am not good for anybody if I get to that point. So there's been a few times where I've taken a step back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. And I know we're talking about leading ourselves right now, but I mean, you served the same way I did. We didn't take a whole lot of time off, right? When we were in combat. And looking back, I know that wasn't a recipe for success. I was able to endure it, but my soldiers taught me that lesson over and over again that I couldn't expect the same tempo from them. How do you pay attention to that meter on the inside of yourself, but also, just looking at your team, encouraging the ones that haven't set that discipline yet of taking time? How do you
No,
see it?
yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to go back to our time in Iraq, because my intent, which wasn't always followed, was I did want down at the line level that at a minimum once a week, pull off the line, get maintenance done, do laundry, get a little bit of rest. And I personally tried to do that as well, because I had my headquarters. I don't know if you recall this, but I took the forward command post, and we were out in a joint security station, and we stayed out there 6 out of 7. That's where we're in the middle of a Baghdad neighborhood. I knew that my team could not sustain that through, you know, 7 days a week. So once a week we would come back, and it was a little bit of a break for them and a little bit of break for me. I had my guilty pleasure. I would watch a DVD that Ellen would send me. I got hooked on Lost. I don't know if you remember that series. But that was I got hooked on it, and so I watched that's what I would do on that evening on that one day, just so that I could take a step back because you gotta get your energy back. That's all about adjusting the rheostat for yourself and for your team as well. And I learned this before I was in command I got some great advice. At the time, I was a junior lieutenant colonel, and this was a more senior lieutenant colonel who had been in command. He said, you're going to need to adjust the rheostat depending upon the capabilities of your unit, your staff. And the thing that I learned is I went through about 3 staffs before we even deployed. And for me, it was starting over with every time I got new members of the staff, and I would have to dial it back down and train back up. And it's the same way today. I can delegate like nobody's business, but I can over delegate and send too much to my team. And then you can just kind of get the feel for it. And I'll ask it from time to time, hey, are you able to take on more? And I've tried to get that candidness, and it's no, we are tapped out. And you can see that. And so you got to ask those questions. And sometimes it's me doing some of the things that I know I can delegate, but I gotta lift some of the load as well.
Hey, everybody. I have an exciting opportunity for you. We are looking to grow with Laundry Love. If you have ever thought about buying a business, if you've ever thought about buying into a franchise, look no further. Go into the show notes, send me an email. I will send you an email with all of the reasons why you should buy a laundromat and get in business with Laundry Love.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so leading your team then for your team to be steady, how do you get them to be that giving of information with you? I mean, I think a lot of people, their team don't share with them when they're stressed out or when they're overworked or something like that. How are you creating an environment so that people actually will open their mouth?
Yeah, so I'm part of a lot of teams. I'm gonna focus on that small team that I have in the office. With it's really just one full-time worker. I have a part-time worker, and there's some ancillary folks as well that are kind of tied to our team, but not exactly. But I consider them all part of my team. So I start with it goes back to vision. We have a shared vision. We refer to that vision on a monthly basis. We revisit it. And I might emphasize a different piece of that vision to keep it fresh. And we'll revise it every year. We do that when on the business side. We establish clear roles so everyone knows their lane, but we also recognize we're a small office. There's overlap. We cover for each other when we need to. There are some things that only I can do, and that's based off my position, responsibilities, and certifications. But there are many things my teammates can do better, and I trust them with those responsibilities. And I put a lot of emphasis on developing the team. For my assistant, I'll regularly pause what we're doing and explain why we're doing it or why I'm approaching something the way I approach it so that she'll understand the next time it comes up and might be able to get me prepared for that. I also encourage continued development through workshops. So in fact, this week I'm going to workshop on Wednesday. She's really happy when I'm out of the office because she's getting a lot done. And then on Friday, she has a workshop, and we took a lot of things off the calendar. We adjusted the calendar so that she could go do that. We don't have to worry about what's going on that day. So it requires a lot of communication and feedback loops. There's the day-to-day communication, but then also once a week, we have our weekly business meeting. And that's where we review what we've done over the last week, what tasks came out of it, and then what's coming up over the next week or 2 weeks. It's also an opportunity for us to hold each other accountable. Usually in that meeting, I said, I got to do this, 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 and this. And what she'll do is she'll take those tasks and she'll put them on my calendar to make sure I actually did them. And then sometimes, I didn't get to that one. It goes on to the next week. And then we also hold a monthly business meeting. And that's where we take a step back and try to look at a little bit of the bigger picture. What are the trends we're seeing and what we're doing? What's working, what's not working? And then one thing I pulled this from our time in the Army. What one thing do we want to continue to sustain? And each of us have to come up with one thing. And then what one thing do we want to improve? And then what's the fix? And sometimes it's that improve stays on there for 2 or 3 months. It takes a while for us to fix it, but I think it's important to always be looking for those things that are going to get your business or yourself or your team, no matter what you're doing, to continue to improve. Empowering my team is also important. I want them to make decisions within my vision intent. This goes back to our time in Iraq as well. As listening and reading your book, I could hear that you understood my intent. You did things that I didn't know you did, but it was within my intent. And as we've been talking to other soldiers, as I've looked at the interviews, I've read the transcripts, I see the same thing. So it's important in Baghdad. It's important in the business that I have right now. When mistakes happen, it's a learning opportunity. We tried to build on that. The last thing, it's not all about, just keeping the machine running. It's also taking a step back and celebrating success. I like to do that on a regular. I look for ways to celebrate. One, because I like to eat. I like to go out and just share some time with folks. And so when we meet a major milestone, the recognition usually comes to me because I'm the leader. But I want to show my appreciation to the folks that got us to that milestone, got us to that goal. So what I'll do is I'll take everybody out for dinner. And this includes the extended team, to include folks that used to work for me, because we are where we are today based off the work that they did in the past.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, I want to, I don't know, dive deeper or just reinforce what you said about, you said it two different ways. You said you trust your team with their responsibilities, but then you also said at the end there, empower your team. And I'll just say, from firsthand experience, we felt that. I felt the trust, and I felt empowered to own my area, which was probably the only way that I would have worked well in that system. That's why I think the best I ever was in the military was when we did the surge, and I had my own responsibility. I think it's just because that's the way I think. But I'll tell you, sir, and this isn't about my company commanders. This is about you. I had multiple company commanders, and I never felt like any of them had as much market knowledge, street knowledge as you did. And so it was actually easier to talk to you than it was to them, because you had a better idea of what was going on and they didn't, to the point where one of my commanders, we saw an IED, we stopped, and he didn't believe it was an IED, and we were like, "Sir, it's an IED, we need to stop." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to take a closer look." And so we backed our guys up, and he moved closer to the point where it blew up on him. And we're just like, "Sir, that was the last time he ever went out on patrol with me." But it's just like, that wasn't going to happen with you, right? Like that, because you talk about playing a role, like you played a role out there, and I don't know, I'm grateful for that, but I'm just reinforcing that actually happened, and I'm sure you saw progress from it. Just operating that way. Okay, leading a company, what are you focused on to keep your company moving in a steady way, not getting yourself into a chaotic situation?
Sure. So I kind of lead on two different levels with my company. First, it's within our own local office. That's my profit generation. Think of it as leading a small business, but it's nested in with a higher level, a couple higher levels, and I'm leading at that level as well. And so leading the business for me, I do it at both levels at the same time. And the principles, again, stay the same. And it starts again, I sound like a broken record. It starts with that vision and developing not just the vision, and ideally a shared vision. You're not just doing it on your own. And then that business plan. And we're actually currently working on our business plan for the next year and beyond. I'm not just looking at a 1-year period. I'm looking well beyond that. Now, most folks are going to understand this. A big part of that is doing a SWOT analysis. What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? We do that, but I also break it down in a way I think is a little bit simpler. I ask myself a few questions. I ask our group a few questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to go to? What's the vision? What's the end state, or the desired state might be a better way to think of it, because we're never going to end. We're going to have a desired state we're working to. What's keeping me from getting there? What are those roadblocks? What must I do to get there? And then how do I keep it on track when I'm going in the right direction? So through this, This helps us decide where we're going to compete and what skills we need to develop. A good example right now is I'm evaluating our marketing strategy. I used an approach that cost way too much time and energy over the last couple of years. And I've recently made the decision, we're going to stop that. I'm spending too much resources. So leading that business requires stepping back regularly from the daily grind and said, what's working? What's not working? Where is my revenue really coming from? And then are we efficient with our largest expenses, whether it's time or money? In my case, it's focusing that marketing. Are we being efficient with that? So it's about keeping the business, as you would say, steady by keeping it aligned, informed, and adaptable to changing situations. And if a plan ain't working, change it. But think about why you're changing it before you do that.
I like that. Aligned, informed, and willing to change. Yeah, I can't help but to smirk a little bit while you were talking, sir, because I basically fitted everything you said into two things. I think you kind of reverse engineered the AAR to be on the front end, which AAR stands for after action review or post-mortem, which is what most businesses call them. But then, I tell people all the time to think, I tell them about my experience of using a terrain board, and how that was the best way to prepare our team for a mission that was about to happen. Because we create, it took 5 minutes. Even if it was a piece of paper and we drew it out and we said, all right, well, here's phase line 1, 2, and 3, which, may be phases of an operation in a business, right? And we would just walk through it. All right, phase 1, what are we doing and who's reporting what and who's the most important piece of this for us to be successful? All right, we're at phase 1. Now we're going to phase 2. And that keeping that mindset of running a business as if I was kind of on a terrain board or, just kind of looking at the battlefield has helped me think of the things exactly the way that you just pointed out, just keeping people aligned and informed and being willing to change. It was a blessing that we had that experience of being trained that way. Do you think of it that way all the time or is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything we've been talking about, and I think you'll appreciate this. We were in a really wild environment back in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I learned in the Army prepared me for that period. That period reinforced and I grew even more. And it influences how I do things to this day. It doesn't mean I have stopped learning. It just means that my principles they were grounded then and they've been reinforced and I continue to build on that. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense.
No, it makes, it resonates one for one with me. When I went to the MBA program after my military time, I was able to take all of the business concepts that they were teaching and directly tie them to the memories that I had from the military. And the reason why I'm so hungry to read as much as I read is a lot of it's just, I need the verbiage to be able to communicate what I think I know. And reading these books helped me translate it to people that didn't have the same experiences as us. It resonates completely. Okay. All right. I'm a young leader. Okay. Maybe I'm in a brand new leadership role or, I'm about to start leading in my career here in the future. And I'm wanting to put in the time now to be better. What would you tell a young leader? Hey, this is where I would focus, just right off the bat, first and foremost.
Hey team, I'm so grateful that you're listening to this video and that you're working on yourself to become a better leader. Listen, if you want more models on how to become a steady leader, if you want models on how to lead yourself, how to lead your team, and how to lead your business, go pick up my book, The Steady Leader, on Amazon right now, and I will give you the models to use to bring clarity to your chaos.
I would focus first on who are you? What's your purpose?
Hey.
Now, it doesn't have to be permanent. It's not set in stone. You're going to change it over time. But knowing what anchors you is going to give you direction in everything you do. My personal purpose, it's not about being a financial person. It's not about being a retired colonel. My personal purpose is to be a leader of character.
Love that.
That guides how I show up for work. It guides who I am. To define your purpose, think hard about what's important to you. What do you value?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it starts with integrity, family, respect for others, and you'll like the last two, loyalty and courage.
Amen.
When you know your values and your purpose, you can lead with clarity, confidence, and consistency. That is important. That's going to be important when you are tried and tested, when things aren't easy. And that's what we're trying to do with part of what I'm trying to do and when we're doing this docuseries is talk a little bit about that. Because that's what kept me grounded in the worst of times. And if you're okay with it, I'd like to tell a little bit about that story.
No, sir, that's where I was going. It's perfect. Is the perfect segue.
So something I'm deeply passionate about right now, it's become a recent passion, is what we're working with in the 1-5 Cav Black Knight Foundation. And I think it's important not just to me, but to I think many of the soldiers we served with and family members as well.
Mm-hmm.
We created the foundation to help us tell the story of our battalion's resilience in Baghdad and the resilience required after we came back after the shooting stopped. So a little bit of background for your listeners, for your readers, and you tell the great story down at the level you were at. I'm going to bring it up a little bit to talk about when you deployed and what we were seeing. So the 1st Battalion, 5th Cavalry, we were part of the 1st Cavalry Division deployed to Baghdad in October of 2006. When we arrived, we were right in the middle of a sectarian civil war. Our area, especially the Baghdad neighborhood of Al Maria, was one of the most contested areas in the city, in the country. I later learned that Al-Qaeda in Iraq considered it vital to their strategy. In fact, I've read where they declared it their capital in Iraq. The violence escalated and peaked in May of 2007. If you go back and look at the Iraq War, that was the deadliest month of the war for U.S. forces. We had more killed in action that month than any other period. 12 of those killed in action, almost 10% of the total were in our area. We had dozens more wounded. You were there, you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
We also had 2 more in early June get killed. And you may recall, and I know every soldier in the battalion remembers this day, May 19th. That changed all of us. An enormous buried IED destroyed a Bradley fighting vehicle, killing all 7 on board. At that point, my leadership was tested in ways I had never imagined. The battalion was angry when they were hurting. Leaders came to me and they wanted to unleash everything we had on that neighborhood, everything. And I made the decision not to. In fact, for me, it really wasn't a decision. I knew that was not the right thing to do. It wasn't easy, though. Chaplain Rindall, he came to me and he said, "Sir, the soldiers know you understand counterinsurgency. They want to know if you can fight." That was a gut punch. That hurt. That stung. But I believed the right thing to do at that point in time was to hold steady. The result of that, the locals saw our restraint. They saw not just our restraint, they saw our strength. Strong wasn't going out there and destroying the place. Strong was knowing that you could do that and not doing it.
Uh-huh.
Because of that, on the May 29th, a local imam called me up. And he said, we're going after Al-Qaeda tomorrow. Now, I argued with him for 20 minutes and said, you can't do that. You've got to give me the information. And this was humbling. He said, you can't do this. We must do this. That was important.
Mm-hmm.
That was a defining moment, and I decided to back them at that point. I was in an ethical gray zone. I was not allowed to do that, but I did it anyway because I knew it was the right thing to do. So that's where your ethics, your grounding, your values really comes in. Understanding, one, we can't tear this place apart. It's not the right thing to do. It's going to harm the community. It's going to harm our soldiers in the long run. And then understanding that there's an opportunity here, and yeah, they're not supposed to do it, but it was the right thing to do, and making that decision and then managing that over the next few months. I learned more about leadership during that period than I ever did in my entire life. That was a turning point in our fight during the war. So the docuseries we're creating was initially envisioned by Mike Myers. He was a lieutenant, same time you were. And helping us tell the story is Nicole Emilio Casper. She owns Emilio Media, and David Goodman from Humanity Pictures. They've been working with us to help bring it to life. We got 2 trailers out right now. We got a third coming out in hopefully about a week or 2. And this project is for Nicole and David. It's part of a larger project they're working on called Resilience Warriors Rise. We're going to be the first year of this project. We're envisioning perhaps 5 episodes. It's still a work in progress, but anyone interested can learn more and watch the trailers at, I'll give a shout out to it. It's 15cavfoundation.org. That's 1-5 Charlie Alpha Victor foundation.org.
We'll put it in the show notes too, sir. Yeah.
And very excited about it. Very humbled as we've done it. Again, I've read a lot of the transcripts. Schuyler, a lot of it is similar to what you were talking about there. I wish we had connected before then. We might still be able to get you interviewed for it, because it is going to be a powerful story. We've gotten what I've asked to do, and so far we've been able to do it. We have different points of view. We got from the ground level. It's probably a little leadership heavy because of decisions that they made, and I got to tell the story from different perspectives. We've also had our higher headquarters, retired Brigadier General J.B. Burton. He was the brigade commander at that time. He's going to tell part of the story. And then we also had an interview with General Petraeus, who puts it in the overall context of the war. So it's going to be an amazing story. I'd encourage everybody to check us out.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story, sir. Just my little piece of it, I was able to write a book about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't wait. I know my family's excited about it, and we'll put it in the show notes so that people can check out the trailer and follow along.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Sir, this is so good. I'm grateful. And how can everybody stay in touch with you or get in touch with you and follow what you're doing?
Well, check out again for the docuseries. Check that out. There is a link on there if you want to connect to us. Chip Daniels is our president of the foundation. You remember Chip was our operations officer. Chris Rogers is the treasurer. Because we are, I'll make a plug for this. We are raising money because this doesn't happen on its own. And then Mike is our secretary. And I'm the last member of the board. And so check that out. And then of course I'm on LinkedIn. You can check me out there
Awesome.
you can reach out.
All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for bringing this value to the listeners. And I'll just leave you with the same message I leave every time. My goal with this podcast is to help leaders of character, exactly the way Dale spoke of his purpose, to become more capable, to rise in the ranks, and to just bring love and just more character and goodness to this country. I mean, we need steady leaders now more than ever. And my goal is to continue to help people improve and be better with their craft. So I'm grateful for you all listening, and we'll be back with another one here shortly. Thanks again, sir.
Cool.
If today's episode helped you lead with a little more clarity and calm, share it with someone who needs it. Remember to stay grounded, stay focused, stay steady. Follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Schuyler Williamson for more leadership insights and behind-the-scenes content. You can also visit SchuylerWilliamson.com for more ways to connect with me. Until next time, I'm Schuyler Williamson. Steady on.